Welcome back to Inside Criminal Minds, the series dedicated to analyzing the actions of an elite FBI team. If you are new to the series, there is a link in the description down below. This episode begins with a family at a park. Well, this won't go well if history tells us anything. Most likely that kid's a goner. And as the dad continues to play, the wife is fixing lunch and is approached by a man looking for his kid frantically and asks for some assistance. And it is insane how this guy is able to lure the mom away while also silencing her by lying about hearing his daughter. And kudos to this actor. He goes from concerned father to killer in one frame. And then he drags the mother away. Immediately after, a kid wakes up his mom, who is late for work. But the kid is extremely self-reliant. And also, what is that game that he's playing? Is it some kind of Tiger Electronic game? Anyway, the woman goes to work on a street corner as a street walker, where she meets a John who promptly shoots her in an alley, meaning this episode is a 2-for-1 kind of deal. Next at the FBI HQ, some lady named Emily Prentice introduces herself to Hotch in order to secure a job as a profiler. Which, I mean, I'm probably not even going to remember her name because she's probably some character that comes in for one episode and leaves. Except for the fact that she's in the title screen. Even Power Rangers is able to hide new characters better than this. But anyway, Hotch and Emily discuss her being on this team, and Hotch is very dismissive about it. However, during this meeting, JJ shows up to tell Hotch about the new case, making Hotch leave, where he confers with Gideon about Emily right in front of her, and he confirms that he didn't do anything behind Hotch's back, leading to the team discussing both unsubs, one killing suburban moms and the other killing prostitutes. Interestingly enough, both of them have nicknames, one media-imposed and the other self-imposed, showing the insecurity of one who craves the limelight because he isn't getting as much attention as the other guy. These unsubs are very interesting because even though they're in the same city, they both use complete opposite MOs. One of them being organized and the other very disorganized. The first one, the Mill Creek Killer, seemingly uses his charm to lure suburban women away. The other, the Hollow Man, finds random women of the night and is able to dispatch them pretty quickly. Gideon also remarks those guys are learning from each other. This idea that links them together is explored more later in the episode. On the plane, JJ is concerned why Reed looks so disheveled. Reed reveals that two serial killers operating in the same location is almost unheard of because of how rare it is. They discuss the dichotomy of these two killers. One needs distance, the other one needs to be close. This is when Hotch splits the team up and plays to Reed's strengths by making him read the Hollow Man's letters. When they land, Morgan meets with the father we saw in the first scene to get a better understanding of the victim. However, the husband laments on how he didn't see someone take his wife. Morgan does an amazing job of explaining this unsub is a chameleon, taking away his blame. This is when the daughter shows up to put into perspective this case. Meanwhile, the Mill Creek Killer revisits the wife and also applies makeup to her lifeless body, then defiles it. When we see Reed and Hotch arrive at the streetwalker's apartment, and her mom answers the door, she does shoo the kids away in order to have a conversation with them. This is where Hotch expertly empathizes with the mother and ensures that they are looking for the killer even after she insulted them, mostly because the only reason they are there is for the Mill Creek. Also, Hotch ensures her that they are going to find her daughter's killer. At the police station, JJ is setting up and realizes they only have a folder on the Hollow Man and a mountain of evidence for the Mill Creek when a reporter that received letters from the Hollow Man arrives, which JJ discusses with him how to handle both of the unsubs. And the reporter feels like his articles caused the deaths from the Hollow Man, which JJ quickly squashes with that notion because the Hollow Man would be killing people regardless. Then JJ asks him not to write about the Hollow Man in order to keep the lines of communication open, even though this reporter wants justice for those victims. But this is the only way to catch this unsub, which is sad, especially after learning from the mother that no one cares about these hookers. Immediately after, the police find the first victim's body, and they found out that the Mill Creek revisits his victims because of how quickly they were able to find this victim's body, whereas the other ones were damaged by the elements. This helps the team because now, if they know where the body is, if they can find that body quick enough, they'll be able to catch him on the revisit, which is easier said than done. However, this death ends up on the front page, triggering the Hollow Man to kill not one, but two ladies of the night, and interestingly, left the paper with the bodies. We learned that the Hollow Man's victims didn't change, but the volume and location did, meaning he is unraveling, which could be the easiest way to catch him, but also could lead to a spree. At the police department, the reporter is upset that it seems his article on the Mill Creek is the reason for the deaths. However, JJ ensures it was the Hollow Man's fault, not the reporter's, which he does have something to say about this.
I don't know that for sure. This is all just a guessing game, isn't it?
No. It's behavioral analysis.
And yes, behavioral analysis is somewhat a guessing game, but is backed by science and studies, and their best bet was to not publish anything on the Hollow Man. Then Reed diagrams the handwriting of the Hollow Man and explains to JJ this is an accurate tool for profiling. Next, the team delivers the profiles to the available cops, summing up everything we've already discussed. Meanwhile, a woman is biking and she ends up going missing, and this is terrible because she does fit the profile of a Mill Creek victim, and the police officers spread themselves out at the park in order to try to catch him either going in or coming out. One of the sheriffs questions the Mill Creek, but unfortunately he had already dumped the body. At the police station, Morgan floats the idea that the dump sites aren't random, so they call Garcia in order to cross-reference the dump site, and Forest Ranger shifts patrol the inverse of the dump site, meaning that he dumps on Monday and it doesn't get checked until either Thursday or Friday. And this definitely fits with his style of murder, extremely organized. However, it comes up with a flaw, the predictability of where the body is going to be dumped. And this leads the team to the forest, and they find the site when they get there. And Gideon instructs everyone to leave everything alone in order to trap the Mill Creek. And unfortunately, as they wait, the reporter shows up with intel from the Hollow Man. Wait, how could the Hollow Man know of Mill Creek's kill? The team begin to discuss when the Mill Creek approaches a woman that foils his plans by alerting everyone in the area, saving herself, and this victim was able to create a sketch of the killer. However, this is good news and bad news because this could create a tailspin for the Mill Creek and increase the victims. Meanwhile, at the station, Hotch and Reed are discussing the latest murders and the attempted kidnapping, and figure out they have been contacting each other using the classified ads, using aliases from Catcher in the Rye, found by Reed, which makes sense. He is one of the only people who could read the paper that quickly. It is interesting they chose Catcher in the Rye. For some reason, sociopaths love that book about a kid who is basically the worst version of Peter Pan, who ends up in a mental hospital. Also, interestingly, the Hollow Man who kills call girls uses the alias Sunny, who was a prostitute for Holden in the book. But other than that, the similarities stop there, because Holden repeatedly gets attacked in this story from everyone, and the Mill Creek only got stopped by one victim, and not because of her physical stature. Anyway, this was a way to share ideas, but after a bit of the Hollow Man being snubbed, he lashes back out to his mentor, and how their relationship is on the rocks but not before the milk crate revealed his latest prey to the Hollow Man. Unfortunately, they used cash to pay for the ads, so Garcia can't get them on a trace, which I don't understand why they didn't just ask the person running the classifieds if they would recognize or at least set a trap for one of them or both of them. They go with a more interesting plan, goading the Mill Creek to find a suspected victim of the Hollow Man by writing an ad for the Mill Creek in their weird code. Again, figured out by Reed. And they lead the Mill Creek out, which this is a terrible plan because what if the Hollow Man had figured out their plans and warned the Mill Creek? Or what if the Mill Creek just simply didn't even show up? Anyway, the team hired a prospective victim in the leaves to bait the Mill Creek, and surprisingly, it does work. The Mill Creek spring the trap, and of course, it's Morgan who manhandles him to the ground, and they bring the Mill Creek back to the station in front of all the media to put the pressure out on the Hollow Man. I do find it interesting. They try to coach JJ as if she hasn't been the media liaison since forever.
Relax. It's not my first party, boys.
Also, they have to get the Mill Creek to confess since technically he isn't guilty of murder just because of his behavior, meaning Gideon needs to provoke his behavior. And he uses the mastery to prod at the Mill Creek. He even tries to put the Mill Creek at ease by removing his handcuff, but then immediately prods at him by calling him a killer. And Gideon does a great job of comparing the Mill Creek to the perceived subordinate, the Hollow Man, and how they thought that it would be easier to catch the Hollow Man. This was really good in order to light a fire in the Mill Creek. And during their interrogation, Gideon does a good job of antagonizing the Mill Creek into a confession. I would say it's interesting that a man of his intelligence not to ask for a lawyer is weird, but he is way too arrogant to do that, and he probably believed that he could talk his way out of it, but instead was only able to confess. Another win for Gideon, who displays his knowledge of this unsub perfectly. Then JJ at a press conference informing the city that they have captured the Mill Creek. However, they ask about the Hollow Man and she downplays it in order to bait him out. Also, she does insult him. This does work as a man walks into the station with a gun and effectively holds one of the police officers hostage, and he gets caught after he loses focus due to the Mill Creek. On the plane, JJ prints out the headline remembering the Hollow Man's victims.
He was a nobody who wanted to be somebody by killing people, and they didn't give him that.
And this is very interesting because everyone knows Dahmer, BTK, John Wayne Gacy, but seldom do we talk about Stephen Hicks, Julie Otero, or Tim McCoy, the victims, or even the people who caught them.
That good guys never get inked like the bad guys do.
Which leaves us with a scene of Emily waiting for Hotch, and she gives an expert profile of a killer to prove she deserves to be on the team. And Hotch finally brings her on board, which also would have been a sweeter scene if we hadn't already seen the title. This episode is mainly filler, besides the two things that come from it. One, Reed's ability to profile handwriting, and Emily's acceptance to the team. However, her paperwork to get on the team is left to being a little bit of a mystery that will get fleshed out in the coming seasons. The fact that we had 2 unsubs was kind of interesting, but they could have executed it a bit better. Thanks for watching. If you are curious to see a spy who gets fired, check out Burned Notice. Link in the description. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe.